Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Latino World Travelers virtual travel parties. As you know, we have been doing these parties for the past year and a half almost. And I am so excited because we have already had over 60 episodes. That's crazy. And today we're going to do another one. We're going to do one about Panama, and I'm really excited to share with you. So thank you again and welcome. And to everyone here, please, you can turn on your cameras. We would love to see your lovely faces. After this presentation by Robin, our guest, we're going to have a Q&A, and just get ready to ask all the questions that you want to ask. And even during the presentation, you can ask questions in the chat. Use it to make sure that you stay connected with us. I can ask him the questions in the moment as well. But please, please, please mute yourself during the presentation because we want to make sure we give the floor to him. Replays will also be available in our YouTube channel at the end. So you're more than welcome to re-watch it there and watch the many other episodes that we have done. Also, remember that the whole reason why we're doing here is to spark your curiosity for travel and to have fun, especially now that we haven't been able to travel during this pandemic. This is the perfect way to learn about another country and to see it through the eyes of another Latino, which is very rare to see out there, a representation in the travel industry. So today we have with us Robin. His Instagram handle is Robin Guerra. And the title of his presentation is Encontrando la isla en tu corazón de luna. And he's going to explain to us what that means. And I'm so excited because he's going to talk to us about Panama. And I cannot wait to hear everything he has to say. So thank you so much for being here, Robin. And how are you?
First and foremost, Vanessa, gracias, sinceramente. Can I go back and forth between English and Spanish, or should
Absolutely. Aquí somos bilingüe.
I just wasn't sure if there were any non-Spanish speakers. Sinceramente, gracias, primeramente por ese proyecto que tú estás haciendo. Cuando nosotros nos conocimos, cuando me mandaste un mensaje por Instagram, I just want to let you know that you're honestly an inspiration. And simply because, you understand the value of community and support. And, all the hard work that you're doing behind the scenes, I know doesn't truly go unnoticed. And so just want to take time for, round of applause for you, more importantly. And I hope everyone else out there. Wow. Like this is an example of why, for me personally, being raised by a single mother, why I continue to be inspired by women. And again, just thank you so much. And I know this has been going on for quite some time, and the fact that you're able to do this, I hope everyone out there takes notice, in particular, again, the Latino community and those that have a strong desire for travel.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much. What a beautiful message. Thank you. So tell us about your experience in Panama. When did you go? Why did you decide to go to Panama?
So Panama is first and foremost very, very, very special for me. For one, I was honestly like going through a breakup, so some kind of heartbreak, and that wasn't necessarily what set me off on this course. But Panama, just for me, has two words, and the root of me going there is simply because of Rubén Blades.
Oh, wow.
Rubén Blades is super special for me because, as a matter of fact, before I even start anything, let me just play this song. We're just 3 seconds.
Oh, yes.
And if you hear your country, all you have to say is presente.
Yeah.
Presente. You know, and it's funny, that song is so meaningful because of that, exactly of what you're portraying, which is community, and one of the reasons why I also went to Panama. Um, Rubén Blades is honestly just special for me because when I moved from the Dominican Republic to New York City, you know, all I knew was Dominican music. My parents were from the countryside. We listened to Perico Ripiao. That was what their genre was. And I still remember them dancing in the countryside, which is a funny scene. But it was just because of Ruben Blades. I always wanted to see what Panama had to offer because of him, because of the artistry that his influence had on my upbringing in New York City.
Wow.
Music has always been a big part of my life, and so with that being said, I went to Panama. There were people that I knew that were telling me that you can actually spot Ruben Blades walking around Panama in the central part of Casco Viejo.
Oh, so now we know if we go to Panama to walk around Casco Viejo.
Exactly.
So we can spot him too.
And as soon as I heard that, and not only were friends from the States telling me that, people from there were telling me that as well. And I would just purposely just walk around the neighborhood. I was a total groupie. I was like, wow. si lo veo, le voy a besar la mano y le voy a decir gracias por toda la influencia.
Did you get to find him?
No,
oh
which
God.
is funny though. Fast forward, my dear friend from college, he's a trumpeter. And when me and him reconnected here in LA, he told me he bumped into him in Harlem. So I was like, what the hell? But yeah, no, that was my motive, one of my motives for going to Panama. His music brought me there.
When did you go there, and for how long did you go?
I went in 2017. It was in 2017, and I went there for a week and a half. It was very short-lived, but I saw a lot. And part of the reason was why I saw a lot, because I just had this I don't know the best word to say, is just awakening for me to just pick up and go and explore. Not only like the country, but as much countries as I could in Latin America. In 2017, I basically had left my job, and I just had this strong desire to volunteer and explore Latin America, other routes not of my own.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, because it was, just to give you a little background story. I grew up in Santiago, Dominican Republic first, and my parents, they came from a very impoverished countryside, which is called Jagua. It's right outside of Santiago, Dominican Republic. It's like a 45-minute drive. Where they grew up, I remember as a child, we had to first take the vehicle to the bottom of the mountain. Then we had to literally get on a horse or mule, whatever was available. And that was how we arrived at the top of where the cottages were. But that ride was so dangerous because the horses and mule would literally be like on the edge of the countryside. So any misstep, you could literally just fall and die. And that was kind of like their lifestyle, whether it was to get groceries, whether like and this is another big deal there, like back then at least, and it still happens here and there. But when women are pregnant and they needed to give birth, they needed to go through that route simply to get to the hospital. Wow. So the reason why I bring that was because they grew up in a very impoverished countryside. They were fortunate enough to save money to buy a house, to move to Santiago, which is where then I grew up most of my time. So I divided my time between the countryside and Santiago. But my parents then grew up, you know, middle class, just below middle class, not even middle class, just below middle class, Latin America. But across from where we lived in this house, there was just a lot of poverty in the Dominican Republic. And as a kid, that kind of stayed with me because we were living in this 2-story house with a balcony, courtyard, a rooftop where we can stargaze, beautiful colors. But then right across the street from us, there was just this very rotten river. I like to call it because it just had this smell, and then it was because of the pollution, the trash that was going in it. And then there were these people that were living in shacks, which was worse shacks than what my parents lived in the countryside.
Wow.
So right then and there, I kind of noticed that there was levels of poverty in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that stayed with me as a kid. But obviously, you know, growing up, don't have the means. My parents weren't rich. Did not have the means to explore or travel or any of that stuff. So eso como que se me quedó en el corazón.
The desire of wanting to go out there.
Exactly. The desire of just wanting to not only see my country for what it was, but also visit other countries because of being Latino.
Mhm.
And so 3
So
years ago,
how long were you out in this journey when you say, oh, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna go? For how long did you go out there, and how many countries did you end up seeing?
yeah, I mean, even to this day, it's still with me, and my novel is honestly like a lot based on it, and my poetry, and just my life experiences, and that's why I titled this like La Isla está en tu corazón de luna, because that journey was 2 years.
2 years.
Uh,
Wow.
I had left my job. I was in grad school, which was kind of a perfect scenario because I was reading novels, reading poetry, writing my own. I mean, I was just so constantly stimulated by my surroundings. And Panama again was just one of those places where it was just wow. If people could see what I saw, and I'm gonna share that through my photos.
Yes.
But I was constantly being stimulated, and again, it was just like the desire of wanting to visit other countries, see the poverty in other countries, and see in what way I can like kind of help. But it was for 2 years, and the amount of countries, I think it was 10 in total. From Mexico to I wanted to go as far down as Argentina, but I didn't get a chance to. I went as far down as Ecuador.
Oh wow.
And so yeah, so that was that.
So let's talk about Panama. You were there then for 9 days, you said, right?
Yeah, about a week and a half.
What cities did you go to? Like, what exactly did you do there?
Let me share my screen. I want to show you the first photo, on another reason why I went to Panama. Let me know when you could see it. Where is it? Okay. Share screen. Okay, can you see us?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a cafe. One of the things that I'm super grateful about grad school was that here in LA, first and foremost, I spent like a lot of time in cafes because of the writing that I was trying to do, writing my novel chapters and poetry. And again, being Latino, Dominican Republic, like one of the things that I saw there was people congregating around coffee. Coffee was connection. Coffee was an invitation for us to not only get to know other people and have a connection, but it was an invitation within. You know, and to this day, still, like I still go to a cafe y me tomo mi café, estoy ahí tranquilo, es como mi tiempo para reflexionar, and even now, like I'm having a cup of coffee. But it was so going to Panama, I went with that vision of like, I have to explore cafes, because cafes in Latin America, there are a treat. They're not like here in the States. And let me backtrack for a second. Here in the States, I think it's being more popularized. Coffee shops or just cafes of like, going into for a cafe, but it's not just about the coffee. It's about the aesthetics,
Oh, I would
the,
say the experience.
the experience, the art, the fact that people congregate around cafes after work during happy hour. What we consider here happy hour is like, people go to the bar something to 7 because it's, half off, and people have a glass of wine or whatever. But in Latin America, people are just congregating around the coffee shops. And it's because they're literally taking time to ask one another, Vanessa, dime cómo está tu día. Dime qué te pasó hoy. Dime cómo va tu carrera. Te puedo ayudar con algo.
Wow.
So it was like a very supportive environment. And then I captured this photo here. Let me see if I can maximize this. I don't know. Um, I captured this photo here because of one, it was just such a beautiful cafe. And I saw this group of people here doing exactly that. And it was just one of those things that I remembered from the DR, how my family would get together in the campo and in Santiago, and they would do that. And I feel like here in the States, it's somewhat of a lost culture of doing that. So Panama re-invited that for me, and it just confirmed everything that I had experienced as a kid in the DR. And in other countries before Panama. Before Panama, I was in Costa Rica, people were doing that there. Before Costa Rica, I was in Ecuador, people were doing that there. Colombia también. Like in every Latin country that I visited, this does not fail, where the cafe is not only beautiful, is a supportive environment, it's very artistic, and it's an awesome place to get to know other people. And I don't think people know this. Locals don't go to those fancy bars or restaurants. The locals in these countries, ellos visitan at these cafes because, as I said, this is kind of like where they congregate, and you get to meet so many beautiful souls. I met so many beautiful people in cafes that have invited me to their homes to visit other places, and so this is kind of like why this cafe is a special place there
Yeah.
because of that, and also because
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
I love how you say like you were able to interact with locals and like to a level where they're inviting you places. How do you approach a local? Like, how did you even start that conversation? I'm very shy. So I will never have the guts to like just go and approach someone. So how do you ease yourself in and like do it?
it's simply, I'm glad you asked. It's literally me speaking Spanish and letting them hear my Dominican accent in Spanish, and that alone invited people, because just as much as you're a traveler and I want to get to know Panamanian culture, the same way that they've never seen a Dominican in their life in person. And that to me was also astounding, because they're in their own form being a tourist themselves, but you're also getting to express, your story of, oh, this is where my parents is from. This is what we did. Oh, we like the same music. And that kind of one conversation to the next. I can't tell you how many interesting, and to this day I still say that the most interesting people I've met in my life have been in cafes. And in this specific one, um, I met a bunch of interesting people there that just were inspirational. Um, to give you an example, I met this French sailor who had also quit his job and simply wanted to volunteer um, on a boat, helping fishermen catch their fish or their meal for the evening. And he was out there for like 6 months in the middle of the sea volunteering for fishermen. And those kinds of stories, honest for me, inspired me because those are the kinds of experiences that I personally tend to look for and tend to want in my life because it's kind of like a moment of substance because it invites you, as the title suggests, in or within your soul. And so it was a very awesome moment. If you guys want to know, if you guys ever go to Panama, this specific cafe is in Casco Viejo. And Casco Viejo, by the way, it's just the historical part of Panama. It's where you see all the Spaniard architecture, colonial.
They have a lot of rooftops too.
Yep, there's a
I was
beautiful
doing some
rooftop.
research. That's why.
Yeah, and so yeah, this was in Casco Viejo, and it was called Tiempos Cafe. They're on Instagram, I believe. Let me just quickly look them up. Tiempos Cafe, and then let me make sure.
So this is in the capital, Panama City.
Exactly.
How many days were you in Panama City?
I was only there for 3 days and 2 nights.
And where, in what area did you stay? Did you stay also in Casco Viejo?
I stayed in Casco Viejo because of all the history. And not many people know this, but it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is another reason why I wanted to stay there.
Really?
Because of architecture, decor. For me, that's appealing. And it's funny actually when I talk about decor because like my home is also like inspired by the decor of cafes.
Can you show us a little bit your home? Like I've seen it, but I don't know if other people have seen it. Maybe like stop sharing so they could see the big screen of your home. His house is like so beautiful.
This is kind of like my little, it's a shrine to Latin America and to the Dominican Republic with all the plants. My bathroom even has plants and all the art. And there's the second floor to the least of the balcony. But no, my house is decorated because of cafes from Latin America. I get a lot of inspiration from them.
Very, very cool.
So that's kind of like that was my first stop. Can you see the pictures?
No, we're seeing like your phone.
Okay, what about now?
No. Maybe you froze.
Let's see. I think I have you on the wrong. What about now?
Yes, now we see.
So yeah, cafes and granted, like this was Panama wasn't my first cafe experience either. It was I had gone to where was it? To Guatemala first. And Guatemala was kind of what reinvigorated this cafe experience. So this was kind of like my 4th or 5th visit. And then if you're a foodie también, guess these coffee shop owners, they have their local contacts. A lot of people think again like you got to go to these Michelin restaurants or these restaurants that are popular, and yes, you have to experience that, but the food in cafes in Latin America are delicious. So if you're a foodie in any neighborhood you're in Latin America, I strongly recommend that you research a cafe in that neighborhood because they're not going to disappoint food wise.
Sounds like a plan to me.
So that was my first stop.
Yeah. What else did you do in the capital? And then take us through your journey through the other cities as well.
Yes. So, and also, let me look for this on my phone and then okay, so. I think it's not here. Okay. This was another thing that I love to do when I travel is find local musicians. And because again of Rubén Blades, and I knew that he had that influence there, I heard that jazz was a big deal in Panama, and I was able to see. I don't know if anyone knows who Chucho Valdez is, but he's a very popular pianist from Latin America, and I think, if my memory serves correctly, he's the nephew of him. And I just went to see a live jazz show in Panama, and in Casco Viejo, which is like if the cafe was on one corner, this jazz bar was on the other corner, and you can literally walk. Um, which, by the way, Casco Viejo is so walkable, and it's again just very beautiful to walk around.
Mhm.
But I saw this jazz. I'll play it for a second.
Makes me want to go there right now. Like, that music is so soothing.
It is, and and I traveled alone, by the way, too. Like, I didn't travel with anyone. This was all alone, which was just made the experience even more gratifying. Um, and this was just one of those experiences too, where I realized that when you go to concerts, you typically go with someone else. But for me, it was just like, wow, this is beautiful. If I'm traveling alone and I'm also seeing concerts alone, like I can also do that in LA.
Mhm.
And again, it just kind of talks about like la isla está en la isla en tu corazón de luna, because especially in our culture, we tend to look um, for validation outside of us.
Mhm.
And that validation tends to kind of dissuade us when we seek it outside of ourselves. So when you travel alone, you not only have a lot of alone time, to reflect and whatnot, but these experiences will just reignite something within you that you didn't even know existed before. If and I don't mean to sound or make it poetic, but I'm just explaining it as exactly as I felt it.
Mhm.
So with this jazz, for example, it was just like, wow, it's not about feeling lonely or being alone. It's about enjoying your solitude and letting that take you on other journeys,
Ooh, yes.
right? So the pictures that I'm showing you is kind of one journey led me into another one without it being planned per se. Like, yes, these are things that I love and that I knew that from my roots, from my prior travels and just being Dominican, that, these are things that just were rooted deep within me. And it's as you grow up, you tend to forget those things, especially if you're not constantly surrounded by them. But when you travel and you just get to have that alone time,
Yeah.
um, all these things that matter literally rise from those roots, and you literally like you grow a tree within, and with these branches of gratitude, of happiness, of joy, and the foundation of all those things is love. And the reason why these experiences happened was because of love,
Yes.
was because of my roots, was because I was trying to um, explore other cultures, not of my own, but I knew that was still my culture. Um, I hope that made sense.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you know, our motto is dream, discover, inspire. And the discover part, the meaning of it is to discover yourself as you discover the world. So it's that way of like, how do you connect with yourself while you travel? And how do you connect yourself with other cultures? So it's discovering who you are in your journey as you travel. So we are aligned totally.
Absolutely. And this is why, honestly, like even my friends, I'm constantly urging them, especially when they tell me they're afraid to travel alone. And by the way, for the record, before I had left, right after I quit my job, I did invite my friends to travel with me because I was scared myself. And I say this as a male, as a tall Dominican male that people typically are like, oh, don't mess with him. And it's just like, it's funny how there's this constant fear that we have when we try to do things alone.
Yeah. And we usually associate like being scared of travel to women. So it's refreshing to hear that men also are scared to travel on their own.
Yeah, and I think the root of that is people tend to be afraid of what they don't know, and I certainly was that before I even started. But I think my first country that I went to, it was, what was it? It was Ecuador, and um, and I was afraid to travel there. And there's so many stories about Ecuador that I could share, but things happened there that were kind of scary, and I had to watch my back. But the main message that I want to let everyone know, honestly, is that people in Latin America have our people have way more to worry about than searching for a tourist to rob or to whatever, right? The just the poverty level there is so, immense depending on where you go, that people are just worried about feeding their families. People are worried about, they're not worried about attacking a traveler. Obviously, like, you don't do those things of, walking down an alleyway at 3 in the morning. And if you do that, make sure that you are with a group. I remember many times in the hostel that I stayed in, I stayed out late, but I also made sure that I always stayed out late with a group of people, and that it was safe to walk back in a group. Never did I like stay alone anywhere other like that late, other than um like in my room, or somewhere where there was just like a congregation, like a hotel lobby. But like this jazz night specifically, it was like 7, 8 o'clock, and my hotel was closed, and I just walked back and forth alone, yes, but it was early. So just know that travel more travel more with less fear, because people just have far more to worry about than you.
Yes. What a great message. So show us more. I want to see everything.
So from the cafe to jazz, which go together like peanut butter toast, I want to take you honestly to another revelation that I had, which is, to this day, my love for flowers. And Panama ignited. Let me just show you this video first. Let me actually maximize this.
Oh, wow. Oh, where is that?
So this was in Boquete, and I'll talk about
Oh,
Boquete in a
Boquete.
second. So I couldn't, that was one of the videos. I wanted to show you. Let me stop sharing just for one quick second, because I guess it didn't download.
So how did you get to Boquete? Is it like a drivable distance? Did you get there by public transport? Did you fly there?
Great question. I actually flew there because I wanted to see as much as I could, but you could totally take a bus from Casco Viejo to there, and it is about a 10-hour drive
Okay.
via bus, but by plane is 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I would save some time. I didn't do that.
And what originally made you decide, oh, I'm going to go to to Boquete?
Because Boquete is the number one, um, how can I say this? It's the number one, their coffee is rated number one in the world.
Really?
And that's why I went. They had beautiful, beautiful coffee farms there, which my original intent was to volunteer there with the coffee farmers. I just didn't have time to do that. But that was my original intent. But when I heard Boquete was the coffee farm, and there also is the highest peak in Panama, which is called Volcán Barú.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also a very special place. But let me show you, and I'll talk about that in a second too. So this, I hope you can see this. Actually, I'm sure you'll be able to. Let me just share my screen. Okay. This flower is called floripondios.
Never seen that flower before, ever.
Can you see this?
Yeah, I see it, but I'm saying I've never seen that flower in my life.
Okay. This is very unique, and I've never seen it until then. And this was my, like, I didn't even know, like, this, going back to what I was saying, that these journeys kind of invite you within, because they will tell you things that you like without even knowing you like them, without even knowing you knew you liked them, right? So floripondios, as soon as I saw this flower and I saw that it was like turned upside down, because every plant or flower is, raised up. But this one blooms downward, and that was just, for me, like, super unique, and I just wanted to know about it. And this was around a hostel that I stayed in. And I'll give you the name of the hostel where I stayed in Boquete, which is, I know it was a hostel, but trust me, it was not a hostel. It was a hotel. It was a beautiful castle that overlooked all of the mountains around these flowers, but like just all the coffee farms around, and it was so beautiful. And it was dirt cheap. I think it was like $30 a night.
Oh, wow.
But this flower was like raised upside down, and it's called Angels Trumpet. And the reason why they're special is because our indigenous culture used to use this as a hallucinatory tea, which is which was very interesting for me. So this
Did
was
you have the tea?
No, no. When I found out about that hallucinatory tea, though, I was like, I wonder, how do you drink it? But supposedly, like, it was illegal, but people still did it. And it was also like known to cure cancer. And that was like something else that Panama had. They had so much vegetation of, like, not just Panama, this is honestly like Latin America in general. They just had so much vegetation of things that just naturally cure things. So that was kind of like very cool for me to see. And this flower is the reason why in my house there's more than 100 plants.
So your love of plants started because of this flower.
You can see this plant right here, actually. I recently started naming my plants.
What's the name?
This one is called a Philomena.
Oh my goodness.
Philomena. It's not a Dominican name like Johaira, or instead of Jahaira. It's not, but flowers are very special, and flowers are special to me because of my mom. My mom, as a kid in Santiago, I often remember my mom going to our garden there, and her like picking out the roses, gardening, the peace it gave her, the tranquility, and the patience. And I've never ever in my life, other than a kid. So when I left Santiago when I was 8, went to New York when I was in the second grade, so when I was 8 years old, stayed there until 26, and now I've been in LA for 10 years. In that transitionary period of 8 till, I want to say, 33 years old, 32 years old, never did I pay attention to one flower, although I had gifted them even to my ex-girlfriends, just because it was like the thing to do, to be like nice or whatever. But now in every like corner that I see, I pay attention to a flower. I try to stop and literally notice the shape, the beauty of it, because again, as the title represents, La isla está en tu corazón de luna. It's an opportunity to absorb beauty. It's an opportunity to invite yourself within, and realize that life is beautiful. And that's why that flower was super, super, super special. And that's why, again, I have all these plants in my house.
Did you get to hike the Volcán Barú?
Yes. So from there, from a cafe to jazz to flowers, let me share with you. one of the most amazing and probably my number one experience to this day.
Ooh.
Okay.
Have you gone back to Panama since then?
No, pero estoy loco por ir y encontrar a Rubén Blades de nuevo. Voy a tocar a cada puerta allá y con mi guitarra y le voy a decir, oye, tigre, vamos a cantar una canción, por favor. So, let me share my screen. I thought I shared it. Okay, so you can't see my screen yet, right? Okay. No, that's not it.
Okay.
Ahora sí, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Okay. Ok, yo en the hostel que me quedé, de nuevo, esto no fue planeado para nada. Como un evento me llevó al otro. Y como esas experiencias me enseñaron también como a fluir, vamos a decir.
Let's go with the flow.
And I can't stress this enough, guys. Try not to plan things.
Oh, are you giving me that advice?
Everyone on here.
I plan everything from head to toe. Who else plans everything, guys? Type it in the chat. I'm like, I don't leave anything to chance. I want to see the most that I can in the limited amount of time that I have. But I'm going to try to follow your advice, right?
Vamos a explorar hoy en día,
Yeah.
okay, dentro de esta fiesta virtual.
This picture was taken where?
This picture was on a hike on the way to the peak of the volcano. I learned in the hostel that I stayed in the Castle hostel, that besides the coffee farm and being the highest peak, that there was a midnight hike from 12 a.m. till sunrise, till 7. Sunrise at that time was honestly 8 o'clock, but you hike for 7 hours nonstop because there's really no moment of rest since you're doing it at night. And then at 8 o'clock is when the sunrise comes up, and I'll show you pictures of that as well. Pero again, this is why I say, like, try not to plan things, because I didn't go there to plan a midnight hike. Si tú me hubieras dicho, Robin, vamos a ir a un midnight hike like a year ago, I would have called you.
Like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, like, tú estás loca, yo no soy para eso. Para nada. Pero because the experiences were not planned until then, even in other countries, because it was something also that made me feel uncomfortable, because it was something also that I have never done in my life. I'm from the Caribbean. I love being by the beach. Y ahí tú me dejas y estoy tranquilo y estoy sano. Dame una hamaca, dame una piña colada, dame un, lo que sea y estoy bien. Pero sí, hiking was like, oye, esto no es para mí. No me hable de this view, this photo that you see here, literally, that's so foggy and so, very scary looking, I guess. This was kind of like, this was, I want to say, like when it was starting to get like morning. But the reason why this hike was super cool was because, again, it was like a midnight hike, and it was something that I've never done. But it's kind of just like life. And when you see the next picture that I'll show you, you'll see what I mean. En nuestra vida, uno siempre pasa por cosas que uno no tiene como expectativa, right? Like it's not.
You go through things that you don't have expectations about.
Exactly. And life is full of fog. It's going to be full of clouds, and that's just part of the experience. And, it's how you shape that experience, the way that experience then comes out. So in other words, as I like to say, and I hope this resonates, is that people are not a source of experience. Nature is not necessarily your source of experience. People and nature are a source of love. Because in this experience, it wasn't the experience that made this opportunity possible. It was love that brought me there. Because I've never done it, because I've never tried it, because I was afraid of it. And love just has that tendency to diminish all these walls, all these boundaries, no pun intended as you're crossing borders, literally. It just has that experience. And it literally just opens up your heart to immensities that you didn't even know, again, was there. And so that's why I like to say, try not to plan things. Like, of course, like have an idea on where you're going or whatever, but um, as someone told me, or I don't know if I read this somewhere, and I'm paraphrasing here, um, and I'll say it in Spanish because I think it resonates more. Para de planear porque la vida te va a llevar donde te tenga que llevar.
Oof. So stop planning because life is gonna take you where it's gonna take you, regardless of your plans, pretty much.
Yes, like life is gonna take you where it needs to take you, not where it wants to take you, but like where it needs to take you.
Oof.
And I can't stress enough again, like how I'm a changed person because of me going through this fog and me arriving here at the peak, which was this video. This is me. This is like me. This is the peak of the volcano now. And
freaking cool.
And that was just such a lively, like momentous experience for many reasons other than what we've been talking about. The tour guide, by the way, is that guy in the red.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
He told me, so this is, ya cuando, which by the way, this was like after 6 or 7 hours of hiking, ja. And through the night, I mean, the most beautiful experiences of stargazing, like the stars were just visible that you can just clearly hold it in your hands. And I don't know if anyone has ever thought of going on a stargazing hike, pero si no lo ha hecho, I would totally recommend it. Especially if it's like on the highest peak of a country.
So they don't have excursions that like you hike half, then like you sleep there and then like you continue the other half?
No, tú tienes que seguir. Y eso fue otra razón que lo hice. It was a 6 to 7 hours nonstop hike.
It's like a pilgrimage almost.
It totally was. Y yo I was not physically prepared for it tampoco, pero eso de nuevo como que estoy tratando de decir, yo no estaba preparado para nada. I remember too, like I had like a knee injury in a way. I had like an MCL sprain, pero la adrenalina me llevó a donde de nuevo me tenía que llevar and it happened. But aside like from a physical standpoint, it was more of a spiritual standpoint because of love. It was love that pushed me there. This tour guide he said, ¿qué fue lo que me dijo? He said, oh, I asked him, have people made it to that side? And he said, no, because people have fallen. And he was like, but it was also because it was just more windier. Y yo dije, have you done it? And he said, claro que sí. So I was like, okay, si tú me acompañas, yo voy contigo. And so that's why he's there on that corner. Mm-hmm. And I'm like running to the other peak. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, for me, it was just this moment of spiritual awakening because of the fact that, going back to love, but more importantly, going back to fear. Like, we just tend to be afraid of what we don't know until we get there and we see that como que todo está calmado y bien. And it's just because of that simple, act of courage. It takes courage to to let go of fear. I know fear is always going to be around us, but if we allow love to overcome that fear, no pun intended, you know, the depth of your journey is just going to be limitless. So this was one of the reasons why that volcano was super, super important.
Wow. What a beautiful experience.
Y después de ahí, cuando uno bajó de nuevo another 6 hours, it was like a total 15-hour thing.
Oh my God.
Déjame decirte, cuando yo bajé, yo me comí, excuse my French, yo me comí unos malditos panqueques. Yo me comí, I ate como 3 meals and like 2 coffees. Y me dormí como una paloma, like free, like I literally felt like I could fly after that, literally. So I totally like recommend these experiences. If you haven't done a midnight volcano hike, totally recommend it.
So if someone is going there, you say you were unprepared, what would you say people can do to prepare themselves to do a hike at this level?
So if you go from Casco Viejo to Panama, again, you can take the bus, which is kind of like a 10 to 12-hour bus ride, or you can fly, which is an hour flight. I decided to just do the hour flight because it was faster due to my limited time. I totally recommend the bus ride instead because the country is just so beautiful from a nature standpoint that there's so many things to see. But to be prepared for this hike, bring comfortable sneakers or hiking boots and bring a very, very warm jacket because of the fact that you're so high that right before you get to that peak, you sleep for an hour. It's not even really sleep. You just rest for an hour before you get to the hike, to the peak, and then you sleep cold. Y gracias a Dios, I didn't go prepared. El hiking guy tenía un jacket para mí. So he's there, like they're there for support, but just bring your own stuff because you know your body more than they do.
Yes, absolutely.
And bring snacks. Bring like energy snacks, nuts,
water,
fruits, water. Let me just show you. Let me see if this plays. This is the view of like the whole kind of. And there were only 4 other people there, by the way. It's just like such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful view.
How long do you stay up there once you get up there?
As long as you want.
Okay.
You can stay there as long as you want. We stay there. I want to say for like another 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you arrive back at the hotel around what time?
So if it starts at midnight, they pick you up around 11:30 at night to make it to the start of the hiking at 12. It takes 7 hours to get to the peak. You stay there until 12. It's a midnight volcano sunrise hike. You get to absorb the sunrise, and then you leave like an hour or 2 after that. So you're back in the hotel by, I want to say by mid-afternoon.
Okay.
And don't think que cuando uno baja, como que es más fácil. Es hasta más duro porque tus piernas ya están como spaghetti. Okay.
Yeah, I mean after 7 hours. Yep. I guess I have to fix my turn meniscus before I try to do that.
Absolutely. No, and it was just, again, it was just a personal journey for me because back in 2017, I was just afraid of a lot of things, from leaving my job to pursuing my dreams in poetry and writing and music, to just like following those things que el corazón te llama. Y cuando es toda esa experiencia, como que llama a uno a tu vocation, a tu calling. Y te lo digo desde el fondo de mi corazón, que cuando estaba allá encima, yo hasta lloré.
Oh,
por esa experiencia tan maravillosa que tuve con la naturaleza, con la gente allá. Y también esa muchacha que ustedes vieron en ese video, she was a soldier from Germany, and she was hiking that like it was a piece of cake. And just so know that other people are there to support you and push you along the way, because you see that y te inspira,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
So you were in Boquete for how many days out of your 9 days?
I was there for 3 days and 2 nights as well.
Okay. So then
So
where did you spend the other 3 days? Did you go to another city?
So after that, I was like, screw this, I'm going to the island. Yo quiero relajarme, quiero ver la playa más bonita de Panamá. And this was actually a suggestion from one of my dear friends who was an inspiration for me. She was she's a female, and she traveled alone. And this, let me backtrack. This was like in my early 20s, and she was traveling alone in her early 20s. And I was like, damn, like that's so brave. So she basically inspired me. She told me about the Panamanian Islands, which is beautiful and somewhat of a tragedy at the same time. She told me about San Blas Island.
So that's in the Atlantic side.
That is on, yes, it is on the
Because they
Atlantic
also
side.
have in the Pacific side a couple, but San Blas specifically is in the, yeah.
San Blas, exactly. Now there were two
So you pretty
parts
much came back to the Panama City, and then from Panama City you went to San Blas.
Exactly. So Casco Viejo to Boquete, from Boquete to Panama City for like a day, literally only. And then I left to this island here, which was just like a paradise in itself. This is kind of like when you see it from a distance. It's like a scene from a movie. This is all there is.
Wow.
All right, so this is like arriving. Even in the DR, I've never seen anything like that, where there's only like maybe there were like 3 shacks there. So these islands are um, just in the middle of nowhere, basically. Um, and so you could spend a day there, or you can sleep in these shacks.
And
So
what
you
did you
have
do?
both options. And like to sleep there is like maybe $10 a night.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a beautiful experience because all you eat there is food from the island, seafood, and it was so fresh. And again, like if you're a foodie, it's like a must. The food was so amazing and so fresh, and it's part of the experience. And then just imagine being trapped on an island for a day or two, and there's no light pollution. You're just literally stargazing, and just imagine again like the stars within reach. It's quiet, the sound of the ocean waves sleeping with you at night till morning, and you wake up and it's almost as if nothing has changed because you're still in that tranquility. Um, and so this was like my next. I wanted to see these islands because I saw beautiful photos, and it was also like part of the experience. And it was kind of like after that big hike that I did, that for me to just um, leave with this island feeling of being in paradise. So that's where I went. That was like right before you arrive, and then once you're there, I mean, the water is cristalina. Um, you can just continue going, y la agua, and you can like see the other island there. Like they're all within reach. These islands, you can actually even swim if you're a good swimmer. Um, and so that was the beauty of of that island. It's just totally like just island vibes. These are just a few other photos or videos. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that wasn't it. Where did it go? Oh, this was the photo I want to show you. This was like the photo of it. Like you're just literally in paradise.
Wow. Take me there. Lisandra says so romantic. It is, right?
It's beautiful. Any questions on that or?
Do you guys have any questions about anything that he shared? Please, more than welcome to either unmute yourselves and ask him the question directly, or you can like write it in the chat and I'll ask for you, you know, anything. So to get to San Blas, while they write the questions in the chat, how do you get there? You get there by boat, but where do you go to take the boat?
So you basically, San Blas is such a popular destination in Casco Viejo that you literally, wherever you stay, you basically go on a tour. So you just pay a tour guide, and they'll take you with another group of people. They'll drive to the boat dock, and it's super easy. And then from the boat dock, they'll sail you to this island.
Okay.
So it's not something you'll like thing basis. I mean, you could be very lucky if you get there by yourself, but you usually go in a group. But when I say in a group, it's not like there's 100 people. You can see how small the island is.
Yeah.
You literally go there. When I was there were only 4 other people.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that's it.
Very good.
So that's, you just basically do a tour from wherever you're staying, whether an Airbnb or a hostel or a hotel. I stayed in a hostel again in Casco Viejo, and that hostel was amazing. Also because I was traveling alone and I was trying to meet other people, more locals. And so, but hostels have all that planned out for you already, and it's so cheap again. And I think I had paid like $30 to go here or something.
Wow, that's very cheap. That is cheap. So you also mentioned that you wanted to volunteer, but couldn't, specifically in Panama, but you volunteer in other countries. And of this presentation, you also mentioned that you can find volunteering opportunities through Airbnb. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So volunteering. So backtracking to when I left my job to volunteer in Ecuador, I volunteered in Ecuador through an organization. And I don't know why their name is escaping me right now. But let me quickly look them up if you want to do this too. I totally recommend it. Just give me 1 second. IVHQ.
IBH?
I don't know if you want to write that. Yeah, IVHQ.
Oh, IVHQ. Okay.
They are a national traveling organization. They're from Australia. They're not from America. And you basically, you pay a fee to volunteer in whatever country you want. And back then again, because I wanted to volunteer in Latin America, and I had chosen Ecuador first and foremost because of the type of volunteer program that they had. I wanted to teach art to kids. Art in my life has always been important to me, whether it was through poetry, music, or paintings. And so I wanted it to volunteer in an artistic format. And with the organization, it was a beautiful experience. But what I saw was when I volunteered in Guatemala, which is what I wanted to do in Panama, but I didn't get a chance to. I actually stayed at an Airbnb in Guatemala, and the locals there have their own local, no organization, no fee necessary. Like they just take you, and you go to the neighborhood or the countryside or whatever it is that you're going to volunteer in. And that is just a much more direct experience, because you can literally see the resources that you provide directly being given to the community that you work with. So, give an example, in Guatemala, we had bought in school desks to hand to the kids, because in Guatemala, the schools had no roof, they had no desk, and we decided to volunteer by providing these resources to these kids that didn't have a place to sit.
Wow.
So I saw that firsthand. Whereas IBHQ again is a great organization, but the you don't know where the resources are going. You're going to the neighborhood and you're helping out these kids, and you can see that. But I preferred a more direct experience. So in anywhere you stay, whether it's Panama or in any of the Latin American countries, look at those Airbnbs that say volunteer, because those are the locals that are needing our help even more than these organizations.
Wow. Very nice.
I hope that helped.
Yes, absolutely. So
yeah, which kind of blew my mind. I didn't even know that Airbnb like had volunteer within their listings.
I didn't know either. This is the first time I ever hear about it. Like, I only knew like experiences, of course, but not necessarily volunteering.
Yeah, super revelational and inspirational. I still keep in contact, by the way, with this lady from Guatemala. Me and her are like super tight. And every time I go there, she's like, when are you coming? Let's go out and help out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you make lifelong friendships through these connections. That's why volunteering is like such one of the reasons why volunteering, I totally recommend it to any country you go visit, if that's what's calling you.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Well, this was such a beautiful presentation. Like, I feel the way you present is like so calm. So I feel like at ease right now, like I'm in the clouds with you at Volcan Barú. Like, that's how I'm feeling right now. Thank you so much. Yes.
I think I talk more than what I should, but
no, it's fine. I'm sure everyone appreciated hearing your story. And I want to say, really, thank you so much to you, because you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart, and we see your passion in sharing your knowledge and your experience, that journey, going through not only Panama, but all the other countries that you visited in those 2 years. That's great. So we're thankful because you share that experience with us. And because of this, you're going to inspire other Latinos that are going to be like, oh, wow, if he did it, I can do it too. And most likely embark on that journey. Be like, you know what, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go do a trip through Latin America and learn about myself on the way. You know what I mean? So that is just beautiful. Please, everyone else, connect with us. We have a Facebook group, and we like ask questions about different travels. And we connect with each other from all around the world, and also follow us in our Instagram, because we feature a lot of Latinos around the world, and we want to make sure that we have a space where we are represented, because there are so many platforms out there that do not represent us. And that is my goal here, to spotlight our own people that are traveling, to have that space. Because when I look at magazines, and let me show you. This is a magazine that arrived the other day, and I'm going to cover the name. But this magazine arrived the other day. I opened the magazine. There is only one, there are no Latinos in the entire magazine, and I'm subscribed to a couple of magazines. And in the entire magazine, there is only one person of color. And I'm going to show you where that person of color is. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they only have one person, and it's not even a person. It's actually a drawing. And I'm like, this is why I created Latino World Travelers, because we are not being represented anywhere. And at least here we have the space for me to represent you guys, you know, and all of us that don't have a space where we are being represented. So make sure you support us, you connect with us, you invite your friends to join us, you watch our virtual travel parties, you connect with Robin and be like, hey, Robin, I'm coming to LA. And you meet with him. And you can support us too by shopping in our store. Like we have a merchandise in our store, and you can definitely contribute that way so we can keep bringing you events like this one that are completely free. And we actually have 2 upcoming virtual travel parties. We're going to cover El Salvador on August 5th, and then we're going to cover Indonesia on September 2nd. So make sure you mark your calendars. So we do this every the first Thursday of every month, except for this one because it was a holiday. We have July 4th weekend. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who just joined, and like I had a blast like learning from your experience. And we're here to support each other at the end of the day. And I know, before we go, can you share what you do in your space to support women so they could have an idea too?
Yeah, my dad passed away at a very young age. So I was raised by mostly a single mother. I didn't realize this until my early 30s. But one of my purpose is to continue to support women because of my upbringing, mostly by my single mother. And because of the flowers, because of music, because of art, um, because of the way that I decorated my space, I had one of my dear female friends. You had a reunion here with her female friends in my space. And when she left, they basically said, that they loved my space and that they felt that I put love into it and that I should open up my space to others. And so that kind of gave me the idea, yes, I should. So now I currently just support Latina women of all kind, but especially Latina women that need a creative space to shoot their projects, because here in LA it can be very expensive to book a listing or an event or whatever it is. So I just open up my home the same way that my parents opened up their home in Santiago to random strangers, to neighbors that literally just walked in and like, hey, que lo que? So I just open up my home specifically to women so like that they can be creative in my space. And coincidentally, and again, going back to like not planning, yesterday I met this Dominican woman who's from Santiago, from the same neighborhood, that the word got around on how I have my space, and she just happens to be from my neighborhood. So it's just like life just comes back in full circle, and it's just it's very humbling for me to be able to open up my home for that purpose.
Oh, wow.
So
That's so beautiful. And it's good to see like how we are like supporting each other, as Latino or as women, like having men support the vision and of a woman, that's powerful. And it's rare to see sometimes. So I thank you for that.
yes, I just want to say this, as I wrote one day in my poetry, there's strength in solidarity, not in solitary.
Yes.
And I'm grateful again for everyone that joined, and for you, Vanessa, for doing this. Because without this community, I don't think that this would be possible.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for always being there for me, supporting me all the way in the festival here and just throughout since I met you. So I cannot wait to go to LA so I can meet you.
Mi casa está abierta para cualquiera que quiera venir a visitar a Los Ángeles.
Sounds like a plan. Bueno, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for being here. And we will be posting this on YouTube if you want to rewatch it. Thank you.
Thank you.